Okay, so I have been a longtime fan of a game called Planetside 2, and it has a very special place in my heart, I guess, because I played a shit ton of it growing up. And I definitely haven't played it as much anymore, partly because I just don't have time to anymore, partly because they've made a couple of interesting decisions with the game. All in all, still a great game, love it, and I still try to keep up with it. So a little bit ago, one of my friends sent me a link to a news item that they posted about a new continent that they're going to be adding. And I read through it and immediately decided that I needed to make a YouTube video on it because I don't entirely know what they're doing with this. But yeah, full disclaimer, I haven't played Planetside 2 in about 6 months or so. Certainly haven't played it very seriously in a long time, but I still play it casually here and there. I also have not done the public playtest that they did a little bit ago because I'm a little bit late, and this news article was posted on the 9th. They had a playtest a little bit later, and I'm only just now finding out about it on the 27th, which to be fair is still before it actually launches. But yeah, all of this is just sheer complete and utter ignorant speculation on my part. But let's read through this and see what they're saying. The first little bit, they're basically like, hey, we're finally adding a new 4th continent. It's awesome. It's a huge undertaking. It's a lot of work, and we're going to try to, rack this out. So the new continent that they're adding is an island chain called Oshur, which is awesome because they currently have 3 maps. They have UnDeRwATer, which is kind of like a desert, but also has a little bit of forest in it, kind of just like an all-around map. They have sUpErIoRiTy, which is just a frozen tundra kind of place, really wide open still. Both of those are really fun. They have Harasser, which is like an overgrown swamp, which changes a lot of the tactics and dynamics because AiR superiority is a lot less effective on a lot of that map just because of how overgrown everything is. They're adding Oshur, which is going to be a really cool thing because they don't have a lot of water-based fighting in Island Chain. And so they talk about how it is an abandoned island paradise, and then yeah, they get into the strategy, teamwork, and transportation side, which is kind of what I was getting at, where transportation is going to be a little bit more limited, probably going to be a lot more choke points. They're going to focus a lot on building and logistics and resources and all of that stuff. So it's going to have a very different feel from the other maps, which is awesome. One of my favorite things about Planetside 2 is that they have all these different continents that all have different feels, but at the end of the day, they're all really huge maps that have really, really big teams playing on them, and it's super strategic, not only just at the squad level of, you're in a lobby with 5 of your buddies and you're all talking to each other, but if you want to, there's actually an organizational level where you can have platoons and a platoon lead where you have, 4 squads of 12 people and then a dude trying to coordinate between all of those squads because the game is big enough that you can actually do that, which is awesome. And I think this map is going to lend itself phenomenally for it. So yeah, totally on board for this. This is awesome. This next section, though, is kind of what got me, okay? So they have a picture of this underwater ocean area, and the caption is, ride the waves or dive beneath them. And it says, of course, islands wouldn't be nearly as fun with a simple kill plane wherever you got your feet wet. Looking at you, Halo Reach. So instead, we've developed a full-featured water system that allows every vehicle, infantry, and projectile to interact with the water in new ways. Hell yeah, that is awesome. I'm really glad they went through the length to actually do that. But it says that wheeled vehicles putter along the surface. Hover vehicles float above the surface. Okay, vaguely making sense so far. I'm on board. Treaded vehicles and infantry will prowl the ocean bed. Yeah, if tanks floated, that would be a little weird. And the most nimble air vehicles can maneuver beneath the waves like submarines. Okay, what? We just said, I literally just said it would be really weird if treaded vehicles could float. But I feel like taking a fighter jet and letting it just go submarine is somehow less plausible than taking, a 10-ton tank and just going, this is gonna float now. What the fuck? Did they just not want to implement boats and submarines, so they just repurposed existing vehicles? I'm imagining the board meeting where they're like, hey, we're gonna have, this entirely new thing. It's gonna have lots of water and island chains and this whole new map. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And management's like, okay, cool. Well, how are they gonna traverse between the islands? And the dev team was like, I don't know, we could build some boats and submarines. And then the dude just pulled a bong out, took a giant bong rip and was like, if you really think about it, aircraft and submarines have a whole lot in common because they just both fly through fluids, basically. And, I could feasibly see a dude on an ATV riding so fast that he just pulls a Jesus Christ and runs across the water. We don't need to implement any new vehicles, guys. This will be fine. It just hurts my head to think about the strategy of this. We'll finish reading this section, and then I just want to visualize a few things. So it says that water is primarily a traversal mechanic, as most traditional weapons can't be fired underwater. Okay, that makes sense. Your knives and new amphibious combat rifles will provide some limited combat capabilities beneath the waves, but plunge at your own peril. Okay, that's kind of cool. It says we made sure to keep performance in mind when designing a beautiful immersive environment, complete with new audio and visuals for your travels above and below the waves. And then if you're ready to celebrate, you can watch their live stream VOD, and yeah, just spread the news, and they're gonna try to get this in before the end of the year. I just wanted to take a minute or two and, like I said, just visualize what this might look like in an actual combat situation. Because again, one of the things that I love about Planetside 2 is that you not only have the tactics of the dudes firing the guns, but also like the operations level of trying to coordinate a whole bunch of squads of dudes firing guns. So I'm just kind of gonna run through this article little bit at a time on this little artboard I got here. I spent, 12 hours painstakingly painting this whole thing out, so I'm sure you guys can tell I'm basically the next Picasso, alright? So expect to see me in the Louvre sometime soon here. I'm hoping to become a quadrillionaire just selling my artwork. I'm coming for you, Elon. Anyways, the first thing it says is that they've developed a fully featured water system that allows every vehicle, infantry, and projectile to interact with the water in new ways. Okay, they don't elaborate on projectiles later, so I'm just gonna start with that. So let's say that you have VS Infiltrator, because I don't know why, that's the only class I can imagine the VS actually playing. He's sitting 4 islands over, shooting you with a sniper rifle that only does 1 damage because their faction doesn't have drop, alright? So we're just gonna drop the Vanu Sovereignty dude in here, and he's just gonna be like way the fuck over here, poking his head in. And if he were to shoot a rifle, you could imagine that the bullet, hopefully in game, would do something that basically looks like this. Boop. And, it's gonna hit the water and then maybe deflect or drop really quick or just like dissipate and fizzle out, and cool. All that totally reasonable. I'm absolutely on board with it. Love it. I think that's awesome. The next thing it says, wheeled vehicles putter along the surface. Okay, so there's 2 really common wheeled vehicles in this game. You have the Flash. Oh, no, hold on, that's Adobe Flash. The Flash. Yeah, this guy. Okay, we'll just flip him around. We'll actually make Adobe Flash drive him. And this dude just putters along the surface. Realistically, I guess if you're driving an ATV, I've seen videos of dudes just skip across the water. Sure, we'll pretend that that's just always how it happens, even in the ocean between island chains. The other one that's really interesting is that they have a Harasser in the game, which is like a much bigger, like 3-4 person dude. It's basically just a giant monster truck, and the Harasser also presumably is just gonna skip across the water like everything else. And oops, nope, that's not the Harasser, that's Whistling Diesel. But I guess if he could do it, then the Harasser can too, so we'll just leave him right there. From here, it says hover vehicles float above the surface and treaded vehicles prowl the ocean bed. So this is a little bit interesting, but I guess it's fine because we have the Prowler, which is one of the tanks, so I'm assuming they intentionally made a pun on that. We'll flip this dude again. We'll kind of just put all the TR stuff on this side. So we have the Prowler. He is under the water on the ocean bed, just looking around for infantry. And I swear to God, if I pull this update and I drop in under the water and just immediately get a face full of tank shells, that's just gonna be weird. Oddly enough, it says that the hover vehicles will float on the surface, and the Victoria's Secret Vanu Sovereignty, gotta stop doing that. Their tank is a hover vehicle, so presumably this tank will also hover on the surface? I guess? Sure. We'll see how that actually becomes a really interesting asymmetry here in a second. And from there, it says that infantry will also be on the ocean bed. Awesome. I'm just gonna grab a couple of NC dudes and we'll throw them over here. And there we go. Basically, I just have a whole squad of NC. All right, so far, this is the battle that we have going on with Whistling Diesel and Adobe Flash over here just driving across the surface of the water. The Vanu Sovereignty can too, because I guess the gods that be decided they can. And this group of infantry is currently being cornered by this tank down here. Okay. Not the most realistic fight, but I guess it's a fun one. Again, the part that blows my mind is the fact that they say that air vehicles can maneuver beneath the waves like submarines. So what this means is if these dudes want to call for backup against a tank, they theoretically could just call upon their local friendly fighter jet dude, and he's literally gonna swoop in under the water and just like I guess, provide underwater air support? Which then begs the question of how do you set up underwater air denial? Like, do you get a whole bunch of tanks underwater outfitted with anti-aircraft guns and shoot them out from under the water? And what do the VS do? Because their tank can't go under the water. Do they have to resort to only using the light tank under the water? But on the flip side, they have the advantage of having a full fucking tank above the water when everyone else only gets these shitty little ATVs. So like, I just don't understand the game balance here. And on the flip side, it does clarify that most weapons cannot even be fired underwater, so if that's the case, then theoretically this tank actually poses absolutely no threat to these vehicles. This aircraft could probably still go run a whole bunch of people over, but that's gonna be pretty risky. And if neither of them or none of them can fire guns, then sure, aircraft could submerge underwater, but why? Why would you do that? Like, the tanks and the infantry have to come under the water to get from A to B, but the aircraft could literally just fly himself from A to B. So why would he go underwater if he can't fire guns? I don't know. I'm just all around confused about this entire thing, but I'm sure that whatever fight ensues here is just gonna be absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. Oh, wait, hold on. They did say, sorry, to clarify about this whole thing, they did say it was going to be a tropical paradise. So let me fix this real quick. Yeah, there we go. This is what the new Planetside 2 update looks like in my head. This guy's in the trees. I don't know. That's all I got. I just wanted to rant about this for a second because, yeah, yep, I think this just stands for itself. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day.